Hello and welcome back once again to After the Credits. Today we're talking about a movie I actually had no interest in seeing because I knew nothing about it, but then everyone told me it was really good and I should check it out, so that's what we're doing. So today we're talking about Baby Driver. So what is Baby Driver? I believe it's based off a graphic novel, but I'm not really sure. I didn't really follow this one that closely. But apparently it's about a guy named Baby who is a driver for a criminal organization. They rob banks and he's their getaway driver. He's young, which is why they call him Baby, and he's a really good driver. Even when they think that he's gonna not be able to get away, he pulls off some shit that is able to evade the cops, and he basically does his thing. So again, I didn't really know anything about this movie going into it, but one thing that did catch my interest about it is it was done by the same guy that did Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and who was originally assigned to the Ant-Man movie before Marvel stepped in and kind of shit all over his idea, and that it was based on a graphic novel, and after seeing what he did with Scott Pilgrim vs. the World and liking it, I figured I would check it out, since I didn't get to see his rendition of Ant-Man. Let's see what he does with Baby Driver. So I went into it not knowing anything about the book itself, not knowing what the story was. I really only knew what people had told me is that it's about a guy named Baby who drives for bank robbers, and that's pretty much the entire movie. So the overall premise is Baby's parents died in a car accident when he was real young, and he was in and out of foster care for a while, and before getting set up with a nice foster father that he has now, at a young age decided to start boosting cars and got really good at driving, and ended up boosting a car from a guy who runs a crime ring, and when the guy caught him, he basically told him that since you stole from me, now you have to pay me back, you owe me money, so you're going to work for me as a getaway driver based on your driving skills until you're paid up. Once you're paid up, you can go about your business or whatever. And he's been driving for him for the last 10 or so years, making up for what he stole from this guy. And the guy does give him a little cut, which he does save, but for the most part, he takes the majority of the money. So when we catch up with Baby, he's almost done paying it up. He only has to do like a couple more jobs and then he's done. And he's trying to decide what he wants to do with his life after this is done. He meets a girl who he kind of likes. She kind of likes him. They discuss just kind of running away and driving cross country together. And then the guy who he's working for says, well, just because you're paid up with me doesn't necessarily mean you're done. I've been keeping all the money except for the little taste I've been giving you, and now you're working at this other job to try to scrape together enough money to take your girlfriend out on a date. Why don't you come do one more job for me? You'll get your full cut this time, and you'll have enough to last you for however long you need it, and, if you run out, you can come back to me again. So at first, Baby's like, no, and then the guy threatens his girlfriend and his foster father if he doesn't come back, and he's like, okay, I'll do this one last one, but then I'm done. So the guy agrees, like, okay, well, this last one, and then whatever, you can go. So Baby goes to do it, and he ends up getting paired up with this guy that he really doesn't like because the guy just goes on a killing spree, like he kills people for no reason, and Baby just doesn't like that. He's like, we managed to pull off all these heists without people getting killed or hurt or whatever, and this guy comes in and just shoots people just to shoot people, so Baby never really liked him. So him and Baby are kind of on the outs, and by the end, Baby's had enough of this guy, so he kind of turns on him and ends up causing him to die, which puts the rest of the crew in jeopardy. So then, even though he makes it back to the warehouse and he's like, here's the money we stole, whatever, I'm done, I'm out. The guy's like, well, what happened to the rest of the crew? And he's like, well, it didn't work out so well for them, so, you get the full cut, whatever. And he's kind of like, well, if they survived, they're coming after you, which they do. So the last act of the movie is Baby trying to fight off the people who are coming back after him because he technically screwed them over. Even though he wasn't really trying to screw them over, it was just the way things happened with this other guy, ended up screwing the whole group. So without spoiling too much of the movie, that's basically the rundown. It's just about this guy named Baby who's involved with a criminal racket, who's trying to get away from it and keeps getting sucked back in, and ends up kind of putting himself into a situation he doesn't really want to be in, but manages to fight his way out of it, and sort of happy end. I'm not going to spoil the whole thing for you because it was an okay movie. If you like things like Fast and Furious, you'll probably like it. For me, though, it just wasn't really my cup of tea. And of course, Edgar Wright, again, the guy who did Scott Pilgrim vs. the World and was originally assigned to Ant-Man, he plays really well with artistic ability, but he kind of limits it in this, where if the subtle hints of imagery is all he was going to do in Ant-Man, I don't really see where the falling out was between him and Marvel. But from what I heard, he wanted Ant-Man to be a lot more like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World and more comic bookish. Where with Baby Driver, everything was kind of subtle. He still played a little with the artistic styling, but he didn't go overboard to make it look comic bookish. So, yeah, there wasn't really a whole lot to draw me into this other than going into it that it's something he worked on. But I guess maybe I was expecting a little bit more out of it. But then again, it is just a movie about driving cars, drifting, whatever. And I kind of had my fill of that with Fast and the Furious 3 Tokyo Drift, and just haven't really been into car movies since then. So, again, this kind of falls into the whole series of uneventful movies that I've been seeing these past couple weeks. So what would I give Baby Driver as far as a star rating? Again, it's just kind of a middle-of-the-road film for me, but I guess I was expecting a little bit more from it going into it, knowing that it was an Edgar Wright film, and there was only subtle hints of Edgar Wright's involvement in it. So maybe that's what draws it down a little bit more for me, but where I would normally probably give it a 3, I think I was expecting a little bit more out of it, and since it wasn't there, I'm going to give it a 2.5. Overall, it wasn't a bad movie. It's just, another one that I could have gone without seeing and not really mattered. So yeah, that's basically my thoughts on Baby Driver. Again, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Links are down in the description. Click the bell up there in the corner. Make sure you get notifications every time I post new content. And until next time, I'll see you after the credits.